Okay, sit down, you friggin' dice-rolling gremlins. Welcome to the first day of class studies with me, Professor Failure. Today we're gonna be going over how to play the wizard class. Now, listen, I have the worst hangover right now, so if any of you make any noise from that orifice on your face over 60 decibels, I'm gonna beat you with a kobold. So pay attention, because this will be on the test. Now listen, kids, I'm not gonna lie to you. If this is your first game ever and you're planning to play wizard, then do it, I guess. I mean, that's entertainment in its purest form right there, but just be prepared for every combat encounter until level 5 to feel like you're storming Omaha Beach in World War II, jumping behind the barbarian to use him as a meat shield, constantly paranoid that a goblin is gonna turn the corner, breathe on you too hard, and cook you in the asshole. Honestly, if your DM is a sadist, then the likelihood you'll even get to level 2 in this class is less probable than my dad coming home from the store with the milk he promised me. However, kids, if the D&D gods smile on you and send a wink your way, and you can actually get out of what I call as the dead zone, then you're gonna find that this class is absolutely fucking broken. And yes, listen, I know the amount of memes that are made about wizards in the communities these days, but Jesus Christ, like, they're not lying. Like, a high-level wizard is just tantamount to being a literal god. Like, I'm sure even Asmodeus wakes up in a cold sweat dreaming of 20th level wizards giving him a swirly and pulling his underwear up so high they reach his nipples. To all the DMs out there, if you ever allow your player to get to level 20 in the wizard class, you might as well pack your dice and bag and leave the room and let the wizard sit in the DM chair. I mean, mechanically, he's got more say over the world than you do at that point. Okay, that's enough of an introduction. Moving on. Now, if you've been sniffing glue your whole life and somehow don't know what a wizard is, they're the OG magic casters of D&D. They're basically the equivalent of a med student going through an 8-year program trying to get their doctorate, drowning in student loan debt. Also, they can start the campaign with the ability to cast magic missile a total of twice, because even in a fantasy world, college is still bullshit. But hey, you got 3 cantrips, good for you. So you finally graduated. Congratulations, Slugger. You're a first level wizard. Now you get access to spellcasting and arcane recovery. I mean, I'm gonna be honest, this class isn't that hard to play. The only thing difficult about it is the spells, since managing them is the equivalent to rocket science for new players. Spellcasting. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's when you get a book of spells that you can at your enemies with. Now, a lot of people think that this has to be a book, and those people would be wrong. Your spellcasting compendium can be anything from a textbook planner you got at Staples for $5 to a slave, a person that you keep on a leash tattooing your spells to their body. Now, in D&D, there are things that are called cantrips and things that are called leveled spells. Leveled spells are things that cost a spell slot to cast, meaning you can only cast them a finite amount of times a day. However, there are things called cantrips that just say fuck that shit and give a metaphorical middle finger to the player's handbook. These are spells that you can always fall back on. They cost absolutely nothing to use and can be used a seemingly infinite amount of times. Similar to the feeling you feel when you purchase something with your mom's credit card. But don't rely on them too much because they do like no damage. Most of them are utility spells and are meant to be used in out-of-combat scenarios. And if you have a brain that's larger than a common fruit fly, you can actually use them in pretty creative ways. I mean, take a fan favorite in the community, Prestidigitation. It's a literal semi-reality bending spell that's been abused so many times in my games that I think it has no right being a cantrip. Like, there are literally so many uses for this spell that I can't even name them all. But I will name my favorite. Let me paint a picture for you. You're in a bar and the guy next to you wants to come up to you and intimidate you for some money. He rolls intimidation and gets a pretty decent roll. A high enough roll that your character pisses himself in perpetual fear knowing he's about to get bullied in front of his peers. But with the power of magic and the cost of absolutely nothing, you can just pull an Uno reverse card and piss his pants instead. Now all that's left to do is to pants him and run away with his wallet, because even in D&D we live in a capitalist society. But seriously, there are a ton of uses for this spell, but that's the best one I can come up with. The last thing you get at level 1 is arcane recovery, which pretty much means once a day when you finish a short rest you can pull out your textbook and read to get a bigger brain and recover some expended spell slots. And I know a lot of new players who tend to forget about this ability, but in some situations getting one spell slot back can mean a matter of life and death. Just don't forget it. Hey, and just like that, you hit level 2. Congratulations, now you don't have to be an embarrassment to your parents. At level 2, you get an extra first level spell slot, which means you can cast first level spells 3 times a day instead of 2. But more importantly, you get something called the Arcane Tradition. Now this is where you really get to color your wizard into any flavor of Kool-Aid you want. This will almost fundamentally change the way you play your wizard, and you'll get an ability in this subclass at 6th, 10th, and 14th level. And holy shit, there are so fucking many of them. So I'll go down the list and summarize them as quickly as possible possible. You know what that means, students. Buckle up. It's time for the lightning round.
3, 2, 1, go!
Abjuration is for the wizards that want to stay alive at all costs. So much so that they take an entire subclass dedicated to not taking any damage. Personally, this is the beta way of playing. I'd rather chad my way to 5th level standing on the corpses of my enemies rather than hide behind my abjuration wall. Conjuration is for the school of wizards who are lazy fucks and want things that aren't in their hand to be in their hand. Additionally, they have the ability to summon creatures to do their bidding, and uses meat shields in combat. I mean, what are they gonna do? You're the wizard, you'll fuck their shit up. Divination wizards are the school of wizards who've opened their third eye from the massive amounts of paint huffing and Sharpie sniffing they did at their college frat parties. You get 2d20s at the start of each day, and you can use them to replace any attack roll or saving throw a creature you can see within range makes. And just watch as the DM falls into a perpetual rage. And with a clear mind you've achieved from your post-nut clarity, you can choose a number of abilities to take on, like night vision, seeing into the ethereal plane, reading any language, and seeing invisible creatures. Enchantment is just for the sadistic wizards that want to make a slave out of the poor salesman that just wants to sell you a fucking sword. You have a hypnotic gaze that can enthrall other creatures and an alter memory spell, so you can take even further advantage of that poor shop owner. This is a pretty good subclass for evading taxes. Evocation is for the wizards who want to be the master of all 4 elements and get some extra damage off on their elemental spells. And you have an ability that will make your friends automatically succeed their dex save if you want to throw a fireball into the midst of combat with no regards for any of their wishes. Because you're a horrible person, I don't know. Okay, listen, illusion wizards are just glorified trolls. Their whole point is to just get the normal illusion spells you get as a wizard and yoke them up on steroids. And at later levels, if you feel like your trolling isn't trolling enough, then you can choose to make one of your illusions a tangible, physical thing for a minute just to further fuck with people. Like, I don't know, I feel like some of these subclasses should be illegal, right? Now, if Abjuration was committed to not taking any damage or dying, then Necromancy takes this to a whole new fucking level. In fact, it takes it so seriously that you actually gain health from ending other people's lives. And if you change your mind, you can choose to pull them from whatever nirvana they're experiencing in the afterlife back into the cold, harsh reality that is life. Except it's like 10 times more shitty because they're a slave this time. I mean, this is a pretty basic class in any fantasy genre, but nothing brings me more joy than running into the midst of battle, emptying a bag of holding and releasing hundreds of undead zombies to do my bidding. This does put a smile on my face. Transmutation are for the wizards who just finished watching Full Metal Alchemist and want to cosplay their favorite character. You gain minor alchemy, which means you can change things into other things, as long as it isn't bigger than 1 cubic foot of material. Additionally, you get the ability to make a transmuter stone, which is just a less edgy version of the one from the anime. It gives you things like dark vision, increased speed, and proficiency with constitution saving throws, and at one point being able to cast polymorph for free once a day. Not to mention you just get it in your spellbook for free by just existing. However, if you can tough it out in this class until level 14, then you get the ability to make a master transmuter stone. This thing is pretty cool, having the ability to transmute a 5-foot cube, remove curses, diseases, and poisons, restoring life, and even reversing age. Like, holy shit. Chronurgy is if you just want to play Dio and pull a Zawarudo on your enemies and fuck them in the ass. Playing this subclass is just like playing Uno with only reverse cards. If anyone or anything succeeds at any dice roll ever, you can just look at them and say no. I'm not gonna lie, this subclass is pretty fun. Bladesinger is for the people who want to cosplay as an anime swordsman but still want the benefits of 9th level spell slots. This subclass can actually be pretty broken because of the plus to AC it gives you. You're a speedy boy who can tank hits, stab, and rain fireballs down from the sky. What could be better than that? But don't get ahead of yourself, dipshit. You're still a wizard. You can still get deleted from existence pretty damn easily. Order of the Scribes is just a subclass for people that thought the wizard wasn't wizardy enough. They're the ultimate nerds of the wizard world for sure. They get something called an Awakened Spellbook, which allows them to change the damage type of some of their spells. Think Fireball's too boring? We'll just change it to bludgeoning damage and just throw a ball of fists at your enemy and jam it in the rectum. This class has a lot of really cool abilities, like making a spectral object that you can see and hear from, to just completely mitigating all damage. Graviturgy's for the people who prefer to make their enemies feel obese and or give them scoliosis. You can choose to make an enemy move 5 feet in any direction after hitting them with a spell, to suddenly making an ally's attack move at Mach 10 and completely decimate your enemies. Or if an enemy just feels hostile towards you, you can just choose to make their speed 0, taking ass loads of damage, pancaking them into the floor, like your George Foreman destroyer of worlds. Alright, War Magic. Now these are the chads of the wizarding world. War Magic are for the wizards who looked at themselves in the mirror, realized how skinny and nerdy they were, and decided to chug G Fuel and shoot up tons of steroids, because these guys are absolutely terrifying. As a bonus action, when you fail a saving throw, you can get a +2 bonus to your AC or a +4 bonus to your saving roll. Steal magic from other wizards and throw it back in their face like a tactical nuke. Or just having some creatures die just by attacking you. I mean, these guys are terrifying. And as of today's date, with the exception of Unearthed Arcana, those are all the wizard subclasses, so we're gonna move on because I've spent way too much time on this. Level 18, you get your spell mastery. Now, if you could believe it, this is where things start to get a little crazy for the wizard. You pick a 1st and 2nd level spell in your spellbook and can choose to cast those as a cantrip without expending a spell slot. Now, to the untrained eye, this may not seem very overpowered, but that's you speaking with your Ooga Booga ape brain. To those of you that may have forgotten, let me remind you that Hold Person and Absorb elements are within the 1st and 2nd level spell category. I'm not gonna say that this is like the most broken thing that the wizard can do, but it's so unbelievably useful, no doubt. Now you're a level 20 wizard. It may not feel this way, but you've pretty much just ascended to the realm of the gods without even knowing it. At level 20, you get an ability called Signature Spells. This is extremely similar to Spell Mastery, except it's for 3rd level spells, and you can only cast it without a spell slot once a day after a short or long rest. You can choose 3 3rd level spells in your spellbook as your signature spells. You always have them prepared, and they don't count to the number of spells you already have prepared. Which means your wizard is going from a whopping 3 fireballs a day to 4 fireballs a day, and that by itself was worth getting to level 20 for. Now let's go commit some arson, students. Class dismissed. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching the video. I worked really hard on it, and I really hope you guys like it. If you want to see more stuff by me, hit the like and the subscribe and comment down below on what you want me to do next. I got a few things in the works, but I'm really excited to share it with you guys, and it doesn't cost anything, and it really helps me out. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next class.